What's the story, Morning Glory? What is the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this conversation regarding Jonathan Majors. So, everybody's talking about Jonathan Majors and the controversies that are surrounding him, the future of his career, etc. So, first of all, let me start off by saying that I didn't even know who Jonathan Majors was until Creed 3 came out. When Creed 3 came out, there was a lot of talk about Jonathan Majors and how good he was in the movie. And I wanted to watch the movie based on what I heard about him, not because of Michael B. Jordan, who's a great actor, but because of what I'd heard about Jonathan Majors. He made the movie sound so interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I still plan on seeing it. So as soon as I was hearing all these wonderful things about Jonathan Majors, the controversy hit. Okay, soon after that, the story came out about this alleged assault on his then girlfriend, and it was like, okay, what's happening here. So allegedly he assaulted his girlfriend in New York over a phone, a cell phone. Allegedly he was communicating with some woman or women or whatever the situation may be, and him and the girlfriend were fighting over the phone. Then the cops were called and there were bruises on her, and allegedly there were bruises on her because you hear so much, a story this big, you hear so many variations. You don't know what to believe. You don't know what's going on. And so you just kind of have to sit back and wait to see what happens in court if the charges are not going to be dropped. So the cops are called, he gets arrested, he gets charged for assault and a plethora of other things. And it was like misdemeanor assault, strangulation, and a couple of other things. And he gets an attorney, and the attorney immediately says that Mr. Majors is innocent. He didn't touch anybody. He didn't assault anybody. He didn't lay a hand on this woman. Then comes the text messages, because a lawyer had said that we have a lot of evidence that's going to show that Mr. Majors was innocent. So then the text message comes out from his attorney, and it was a or a series of messages from the girlfriend to Jonathan Majors, where she was basically denying that any type of assault took place, putting a lot of blame on the police, saying that they were making her say things or making her sign statements that she didn't agree to, and that she was going to do whatever she could possibly do to make sure that these charges were dropped, because he didn't do anything wrong, and that in fact it was all her fault because she was fighting for the phone, and that he never strangled her, and that it was like bizarre. And the most bizarre thing about it was that when you would read the articles that talked about these text messages, a lot of these articles would also say that these text messages have not been independently verified, as if people were thinking that maybe they didn't really come from her. She really didn't say these things. I don't know. And I've always wondered, why hasn't she stepped up and tried to clear his name? If those text messages were true and they were from her legitimately, why hasn't she come forward to say this is not true? I am not a victim of any type of assault. He didn't hit me. He didn't lay his hand on me. The police were rushing to judgment because they saw a couple of scratches or whatever they saw, and they rushed to judgment by arresting him, and Jonathan Majors is innocent. He didn't do anything to me. I've always wondered, why hasn't she come out? Because this has happened before, where women who have been victims of an assault by their domestic partners would later come out and not necessarily retract, but definitely try to minimize what actually happened in order to save their partner's reputation or to save their career. The two cases that come to mind are the cases of Ray Rice, a football player who beat the crap out of his wife, and at the time she was his fiance. Her name was Janae Palmer. Beat the crap out of his fiance in an elevator, but then later on they got married, and she basically didn't want people to continue to say bad or negative things about Ray Rice, and completely minimized what happened in the elevator. His lawyers called it a minor physical altercation, etc. So she stood by her man, and she was basically like, hey, y'all are putting 20 on 10. It wasn't like that. He's never hit me before. It was just this one-time incident. It really wasn't him. That day in the elevator, he was I don't know if she was trying to allege he was under the influence of something, or he was having some type of a mental breakdown or what, but she went hard for her man in trying to, she couldn't deny that it happened, because it was on surveillance video. So she just had to minimize the incident. Another case was with Stacy, another football player. There was video evidence of him throwing his ex-girlfriend, mother of his child, throwing her around in her living room, where she knocked her head into the big screen television, and he just kept on throwing her around as if she was a rag doll. That was on video, so he couldn't deny it. She couldn't deny it. But after everything was said and done, he served time in jail. After he was released, she was like, "Okay, y'all, he's doing better. He's doing the best he can. Leave him alone, y'all. He's going through anger management. He served his time. He's a better person now." So these women have the capability of, if they want to, of coming out and declaring that their men are not that bad. So I don't understand why she hasn't. If nothing happened, according to those text messages, it seemed like she was trying to say nothing happened, and the cops were just, trying to put something on nothing, then why hasn't she come forward to try to clear his name? Because while we're waiting for more evidence to come out, because the attorney said there was more evidence that they had that Jonathan Majors was innocent, where is this evidence other than that text message? So soon after that incident, it kind of lay low a little bit. We didn't hear too much about Jonathan Majors. Then boom, out of nowhere, we hear that his PR team and his management team dropped him as a client. And his PR team and management team, they work with some serious Hollywood heavy hitters, some A-list actors in Hollywood. And so he had a really strong, prominent team behind him that was helping him further his career. They all of a sudden dropped him, and it was a little bit confusing because they dropped him before his May 8th court date, the court date that was associated with the incident with the girlfriend. And I was kind of like, that's interesting. Why would they drop him before his court date? So then I just assumed, in my own personal opinion, in my own mind, I just assumed that, okay, I think they dropped him not because of what happened with the girlfriend. They must have dropped him because of something else. So when the incident came out about the girlfriend, when the March incident happened, when that came out to the public, then we started hearing other allegations that were thrown against Jonathan Majors when he was a student at Yale School of Theater, I think it was. He was a grad student of the Yale School of Drama. He was a grad student at the Yale School of Drama. And so when these allegations came out with the girlfriend, then if you went on Twitter, you would see that these people that he had gone to school with came out and they started saying, hey, Jonathan Majors was also problematic when he was at Yale. There were allegations that he was aggressive with female partners, and the question was asked, why are y'all coming out with this now, 10 years later? I'm assuming he was in grad school maybe around 10 years ago or so. So the question was asked, okay, why are y'all bringing this up now? Why didn't y'all bring this up then? And the people who were the loudest about these allegations responded and said, we did try to bring it up then. We tried to bring attention to Jonathan Majors' aggressiveness, but nobody was listening to us back then. And the victims themselves did not want to come out and say anything at that time. But now that he's a big star, I guess they feel like people are going to listen to them now because they're throwing these allegations against a major Hollywood star. So there's a lot of talk on both sides, which I'm not going to get into because we all know what the arguments are, because you have one side that's saying, these are just allegations. If it was that serious, why didn't they call the police on him back then? Nothing was said back then. Y'all want to bring something up now. So there's this conspiracy that y'all are just trying to take down this successful black actor. When the text messages came out with the girlfriend where she was trying to say that nothing happened and that, the police were doing too much, people were like, you see, he's innocent because she's taken back, or she's trying to clear it up now and say that nothing actually happened. It's just all a big conspiracy against this black man whose star is quickly rising. Then you have the people on the other side who are like, he did this, believe the victim. You always have to believe the victims. In Yale, those alleged victims, are probably too scared to talk. The girlfriend now, it seems like she was coerced into saying these things or sending these text messages. She sounds like a victim of DV, etc. So we know what the arguments are on both sides. My question is, because I have questions, my question is, why can't people just like pipe down until these court proceedings happen? Until we hear what happens, what is this evidence that the DA has against him in court? And as far as whatever happened at Yale University, I don't know. Who knows what happened? The only people that know for sure are these alleged victims and Jonathan Majors. Nobody else knows for sure. And I just don't understand how people can be so quick either to defend or accuse this person when nobody really knows exactly what happened, which leads me to my next point. I was shocked when the management team and the PR team decided to drop him as a client before his May 8th court date. And if it had nothing to do with the current incident with the girlfriend, and they're basing this on the fact that these past victims are now beginning to talk to the district attorney's office over there in Manhattan, if it's because of that they feel like, okay, we got to let this man go because, these women are talking to the DA. There's got to be something going on. We don't know for sure, but where there's smoke, there's fire. If that's the case, once again, why couldn't they wait until there was more information before dropping him? Now, I have read that the reason why these teams decided to drop him so quickly was because it's easier to explain why they rushed to judgment than it is to explain why they are representing or helping an offender, a possible offender, because they'll get so much more heat if they keep them on as their client and it comes out that these things actually happened. So it's easier for them to say, oh, okay, we don't know if it happened or not, but we'd rather be safe than sorry and just let him go because there's just too much talking going on. There's too much assumptions and allegations being thrown around. So we'd rather let him go now and, to cut our losses now and face the court of public opinion as far as why we rush to judgment. We'd rather do that than having to defend ourselves on why we decided to keep on someone who was an offender. At the end of the day, it is about business. The bottom line is the mighty dollar bill, and that's the only thing that these businesses really care about, which leads me to my next point. This is a money game. Okay, this is just a business. And so for them to decide to drop Jonathan Majors, it has to be because they feel like we were going to lose more money than make any money off of him. And we're in the business of making money. We're not in the business of making people feel good or making people feel comfortable. We're in the business of making money. And so I guess because they probably were hearing the rumblings of maybe these future projects that he was set to work on were probably going to be dropping him. So they were like, okay, what's the point? The work that we got him is no longer there, or they're slowly beginning to let him go. So our work here is done. I don't know. So let's talk about Jonathan Majors' project. So the past work he's done has been, like I said, not only like box office hits like Creed 3, but also very critically acclaimed hits like Magazine Dreams. So Magazine Dreams was a movie that he did where he starred as a bodybuilder. And I'm not sure exactly what the bodybuilder's problem was. I don't know if he was an addict or addicted to bodybuilding. I don't really know. I forgot what the plot was, but he played a bodybuilder in Magazine Dreams. He got a lot of critical praise for that movie. It was featured in the Sundance Festival, and not only that, but a major movie studio wanted to pick that movie up and have it released as a movie. Which studio was it? I can't remember the studio that wanted it. I think it was Disney. I think Disney bought the rights to Magazine Dreams and they were going to release it as a feature film. And after it was released as a feature film, it was set to be released December the 8th of this year, 2023. And after its release, Disney was going to start working hard to have him nominated as Best Actor for Magazine Dreams. So they were going to start their campaign for, I don't know if it was for the Academy Awards or for all the awards or just the Academy Awards. I don't know. But soon after the release of Magazine Dreams, they wanted to start a very hard, intense campaign of having him nominated for Best Actor. So that's his past work to show how talented this guy is, that you have these major studios behind you pushing your work and wanting to work with you and wanting you to be nominated, for major awards. That just shows like how interested these studios are. So we have Disney. We also have, we know about the whole situation with Marvel. So he was set to star in Avengers, The Kang Dynasty, which was set to go into production 2024 and hopefully be released by May the 2nd, 2025. Jonathan Majors was set to get paid $20 million for Kang the Dynasty plus back end compensation. $20 million to play Kang the Dynasty. So as far as I know right now, Marvel Studios, they have not dropped him from that project, but rumors are already starting of him possibly being replaced. Now, why would there be rumors if there wasn't already talk about them possibly dropping him? Marvel Studios is not commenting one way or the other. Of course, they're waiting to see how this other stuff, these allegations, how they play out in court. And how they play out in the court of public opinion, because that also matters just as much as what goes on in a court of law. So there's rumblings, there's rumors that he may be replaced by Damson Idris. And it's just insane to me how someone can, and I know that in his mind, it wasn't overnight. He's been working at this for a very long time, working at his craft for a very long time. So to him, Jonathan Majors, this is not overnight success. But to people like me who really don't follow these major movies, I didn't even know who he was, like I said, until Creed 3 came out. To people like me, it's kind of like his star rose pretty damn quickly. But he did put in a whole lot of hard work behind it. So in addition to that, I also had read that one of the alleged victims also worked on Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania. So that movie that he started, I think he was in that movie. Well, one of alleged victims was also, I don't know if she was there as talent in front of the camera or if she worked in part of production. I don't know. So we talked about his past work, the things that he's been involved in, box office success, critical success. Now let's talk about the things that are kind of like, unsure of. So these are projects that are hanging in the balance. So he was set to star as Dennis Rodman in the Lionsgate film 48 Hours in Las Vegas. And I think this movie is about when Dennis Rodman played for the Chicago Bulls, and they were like, I think at that time they were in the championship finals or something, and Dennis Rodman was absent for 2 days and nobody knew where he was, and he was in Vegas. And so people were really upset. They were really, really mad at him for not being there. I don't know if he missed the actual games or if he was missing practice, but I remember in the Michael Jordan documentary, they talked about how Dennis Rodman was gone for 2 days and nobody knew where the hell he was. So they made a movie about that. And Jonathan Majors was going to star as Dennis Rodman. And it is backed by Lionsgate Studio, another major Hollywood studio. And so that's hanging in the balance. Nobody knows if that's going to go forward or if it's going to be halted. He was also set to star in a movie directed by Spike Lee called The Understudy, and it was going to be released on Amazon, and he was going to be working alongside Will Smith. That also has been halted since March. Nobody knows what's going to happen with that movie. Now, let's talk about the stuff that has the projects that have definitely dropped him. He was supposed to star in a movie called The Man in My Basement. He's been dropped from that. He was also supposed to be involved in a 2023 ad campaign for the Major League Baseball team, the Texas Rangers. He was going to be involved in some ad campaign for them. They've dropped him from that. And the House of Valentino has disinvited him from the Met Gala. I don't even know what to say. I cannot come out here and say, oh, protect this man at all costs. He's innocent. He didn't do it. Because I don't know. And I cannot come out here and say he did these things. Of course he did them. There's just, too much talk. Where there's smoke, there's fire. If the DA is involved, they must have some type of evidence against him. I just don't know. The only thing that I can say is let me compare him to Michael Irvin real quick. So Michael Irvin, the retired Dallas Cowboy football player, very infamous. He also had a controversial incident of his own towards the end of last year. The beginning of this year, sorry, because it was during the Super Bowl. So Michael Irvin, retired football player. He has a very interesting, colorful past, drugs, arrests, etc. He was involved in an incident where he was staying at a hotel and a female employee that he was talking to in the lobby. He comes home, he comes back to the hotel from dinner. Somebody stopped him, a fan, and, wanted to speak to him or whatever. So he stopped for a couple of minutes, talked to the young lady, went about his business. Well, this particular young lady who works for the hotel claimed after that he had touched her inappropriately and said inappropriate things to her. As soon as the allegations came out, the NFL dropped him because Michael Irvin was set to do a series of jobs, like hosting jobs or broadcasting jobs, for the NFL during Super Bowl week. NFL dropped him. He lost his work, his NFL work, and it was like, what? Just because somebody said something, a man could lose his job, his income? What is going on? That situation, it's you want to believe that major companies and corporations are not going to act so quickly without some type of evidence. It may not be enough for a criminal case. It may not be enough to sway the public's opinion, but it has to be something there that they're hanging their hat on as far as ruining these people's careers. So with Michael Irvin, for example, the reason why I want to compare Michael Irvin to Jonathan Majors is this. Okay, Michael Irvin, well-known, football player, well-known athlete. These allegations come out against him. He denies them, hires an attorney. He loses his jobs, and he wasn't going to take this laying down. Michael Irvin quickly started to proclaim his innocence. He was doing interviews. He was on podcasts. He was holding press conferences saying, I did not do anything to this young lady. We talked maybe a minute or two, and I went about my business. I went up to my room and I went to sleep. My question is, I don't understand why Jonathan Majors can't do the same thing. Is that wrong for me to ask that? Why can't he do the same thing? Because you're losing your reputation and your career, the career that you worked so extremely hard for. Here you have this African-American man who has made it to the echelon of Hollywood society. Okay. It's not easy to get to where he's at career-wise, and he's made it to the top, and people are working to completely derail him. I don't understand why he hasn't come out. He doesn't, and I understand there's pending investigations, there's pending criminal case, there's a pending court date coming. I understand all of that. He can't say too much, and I'm not saying that he should talk about exactly what happened. All I'm saying is, why can't he do a press conference or something, an interview or something, saying, hey, I didn't do this. I am innocent. of these allegations, of these charges. I haven't laid a hand on anyone, male or female, for any reason whatsoever. And of course, you hire your attorney to do this for you. But, attorneys are just mouthpieces. They're your representative. You're paying them to say certain things on your behalf. Okay. Why can't he be like Michael Irvin? Michael Irvin came out and he didn't care. If you were willing to listen, he was willing to talk about his innocence. Just come out and say, I did not do this, because his career is on the line. And we know how it is, because there was another actor / producer. His first name was Nate. I can't think of his last name. But he directed Birth of a Nation. He was getting a lot of critical acclaim. The remake of Birth of a Nation, not the original one, because the original one was like in the 1920s or something, 1930s. I don't know. They did a remake of Birth of a Nation, and this particular actor, producer, writer, I think he was a producer of Birth of a Nation. I think he acted in it as well. Got a lot of critical acclaim for Birth of a Nation. All of a sudden, he was at the height of his career, okay? And people started rumbling. The rumors began. The talking began of this incident that happened to him when he was in college, way back when he was in college. And when he was in college, he was accused of assaulting a female. Charged, arrested, went to court, went to trial, and the verdict was not guilty. Not guilty. And through it all, so he was declared not guilty, moves on with his life, becomes, this heavy hitter in Hollywood. The story comes out of what he did of what happened to him in college, ended his career, even though he was found not guilty. Unfortunately and sadly, the victim in that case ended up harming herself, and she's no longer with us. Unfortunately, that happened, and I don't know if it's because of that happening that the story resurfaced and his career was over, or I don't know. But all I know is, even though he was found not guilty because of the accusation, I don't know what it was. I don't know. His career was over. His career was absolutely over. You can Google him. Just Google Birth of a Nation, the remake. You will see his name. You will see his story. And it's unbelievable that he was found not guilty, but that still ended his career years and years later. And like I said, now we have Jonathan Majors. I'm not going to sit here, like I said, I'm not going to say one way or the other. I just have questions. As far as how people are so quick to rush to judgment, number one. But also at the same time, if too many people are saying the same thing, is there any validity? Could there be validity in their stories? I don't know. I don't understand how people can just be like, oh, he did it. Oh, no, he's innocent. How do you know? How do you know? And his attorney also had presented surveillance video of the girlfriend, the incident that happened in March with the girlfriend, who's now the ex-girlfriend. She also presented evidence where it was surveillance footage of the girlfriend the night of the incident, after she had that altercation with Jonathan Majors. She went clubbing. So there's videos of her at various clubs or bars or whatever. And what the attorney is trying to prove is that if she was so seriously injured by Jonathan Majors, why would she go out and party afterwards? And supposedly, her hand was severely injured or something. But in these videos, you can see her using her hand with no problem, not showing any signs of pain or anything. So, to me, that's kind of flimsy evidence. She also had said that there was going to be surveillance video of what happened in the car, that they were not fighting over this phone, or they were fighting over the phone, but she was the aggressor, that he was not hitting her at all. The woman was the aggressor. I don't know, but that hasn't surfaced yet. The lawyer also says that what actually happened, according to Jonathan Majors, is that yes, they got into an altercation in the car. He denies laying a hand on her, says he didn't hit her, he didn't touch her, nothing like that. They did fight over the phone, but he did not assault her in any way. He ends up leaving. He gets out of the car, and she continues doing whatever she was doing the rest of the night. He doesn't come home until like 11 o'clock in the morning. And when he came home at 11 o'clock in the morning, the girl was at his apartment and she was passed out in his closet. And there was a bottle of pills next to her because she was sending him messages throughout the night, threatening to harm herself and making all other kinds of threats against him. So when he came to his residence at 11 a.m., she was already there, half naked, passed out in his closet. So that's when he called the police because she was passed out. That's when he called the police. And when the police arrived and they asked her what happened, she said she didn't know what happened. And according to his attorneys, one of the police officers, a female cop, was coercing or coaching her to say that Jonathan Majors choked her, when evidently this woman is claiming that he didn't, but was trying to get her to say that he did. It is messy. This is a public relations nightmare because it all comes down to he said, she said, and it all comes down to public opinion when it comes to his work, because regardless of what happens in the court, he's already been found guilty in Hollywood because they're dropping him like a hot potato. And the court process is going to take a long time. It's not going to be done in a couple of days. It's going to take a while for the court process to play itself out. And by the time we get to a verdict, if it even goes that far, is he going to work again in Hollywood after that? Or are the people going to come back and say, oh, you were found not guilty, let's go ahead and rehire you? Oh, you were found not guilty, let's go back and represent you again as your PR team. Are they going to do that? No. They've moved on to other projects, moved on to other things, have already found replacements for him, etc. It's a very sad, messy situation on all parts. Jonathan Majors' part, the victims' parts, if what they're saying is true, very sad for them as well, that they had to endure any kind of abuse from anybody. So it's just sad all the way around. And we may never get to the bottom of it. We may never, ever get to the bottom of it. In the meantime, look what's been happening. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content. Go ahead and subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.